this video tutorial, we're going to be looking at Another Kind of Green by John Mayer Trio off their live Try album. And in an effort to teach the tune a bit quicker, I'm going to go through the first iteration of each one of the parts. So the intro, the first verse, first pre-chorus, first chorus, and then the bridge and outro kind of thing. The details where the song differs, like for instance PreChorus2 has a different chord structure, that kind of thing, I'm going to do in part 2 of the video. So if you just want to learn the basics of the tune, get in and get out, the first part's for you. If you want to stick around for some of the extra fills and added value stuff on how the chords are constructed, stick around for part 2. Let's get to it. The intro to Another Kind of Green sounds like this. Starting off with a G sharp minor. So we have our thumb on the 4th fret of the low E, third finger is on the D6, and we're barring with our first finger, 4th fret, bottom 3 strings. We hit the bottom part of the chord, and we do this. So we're doing a hammer-on pull-off with our pinky on the G 4 to 6, back to the 4, and then a slide from the D6 to the D4 with our third finger. Kind of awkward with the pinky, but that's how it's done. Then we're sliding down into a F sharp major position, and the fretting for that is thumb on the E2, and then starting on the D string at the 4th fret, we have our third finger, 4, 3, 2, and then muting the high E and the 5th string here, the A, and we play this. And we actually end that little phrase off with an upstroke on the open D and A strings as a time-keeping, pick reorienting kind of a move. So from the top, slow. After that, we do this. And that's a B major, starting with our first finger on the A2 and then barring the 4th fret for the next 3 strings. We hit that, let it ring. With our third finger on the A4, we're going to slide up to A6. And then we're going to bar our first finger on D4 and then the next 2 strings after that. So after that, we have an open E, and then sliding up from 2 to 4, and then barring with our first finger the A2 and the D2. So and those slides are what we call grace note slides, where they're fast, they're rushed. They're not, they're, so but be sure to rush those. They're all notated as grace notes in the tab. After that, we hit this Eadd9 chord. We do a little bass run up around the 7th, 9th fret areas. So that A9 chord, first time we hear it, it's the only time it's played like this that I can hear in the transcription. He's adding these little notes on the end. Let's just give you the chord right here. We have 5 on the low E, skip a string, and then we're 7, 6, 5, and then 7 on the high E. That is an Eadd9 because we're adding the 9th to the B. And he hits it like this. Upstrokes on the bottom part, and then we have a slide from 7 to 9, grace note slide, and then we hit A7 and 9 to end the phrase off. So thing is, that's the only time he plays it with those little added notes on the high E and B. A lot of times, 99% of the time, he's leaving those 2 fretted notes off on the high E and B, and he's just playing them open like that. And it's still technically an Eadd9 chord because it's the same notes just reversed on the strings. So I'm going to suggest that you guys all play that. So really all you're going to do is 5th fret on the E, mute the A, and then 3rd finger on the D7, 2nd finger on the G6, and then leave these 2 open and do this. Almost all of them are like that. It sounds nicer too. After that, with our after we complete that run up, our 3rd finger is on the A9. We're going to do this chord. So we have an A9, 3rd finger. First finger is going to be on the D7, and then our pinky is going to be on the G9. We're going to hit the full all 6 strings and slide that up 2 frets. that, and it becomes a G sharp minor 7th with a sharp 5th. That's what we got there. And the rhythm for that is, we slide out down slow. So we're sliding it up, then we're hitting the high end of it, and then hitting the low part. We're on the A11, and then down, up, down, slide it out. So let's do the whole thing slow. And one thing I'll add, just before, he does it several times, this is 99% of the song is this whole sequence. Just before he gets into the verse, he does a small variation that I'm going to point out here because it is nice. It's this. He does this kind of reverse rake down, and we actually hear some harmonics on the high E and B just because his hands are so huge and he happens to hit them. So that bit is like this. So you hear the harmonics there and the overtones? So we're just sliding up, and we're going to drag our pick until we get to the A11, and then we finish off like before. So that is one nice variation. So the first time we hear it, it's... And then just before the verse starts, he does this. And for some reason you get those nice overtones coming out of nowhere. So that is the intro. Verse 1 is incredibly hard to hear. It's almost like when John Mayer starts singing, the engineer is like, let's take the guitar channel and fade it down into the depths of hell so that that Zartimus guy can't hear what the hell's going on. But I compared the verse to some other performances around the same time. They actually did 2 live shows for the Try album, and I have an idea of what's going on in there. It kind of, I think it goes like this. Something like that. In the latter verses, he's actually going 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. There's a lot of this going on. So let's do this G sharp minor chord, get that going, and it's kind of the first part. And we're doing a little hammer on from the G4 to 6 with our pinky. So low, high, low, hammer on, and then low again. Then we're sliding down to the F sharp major, and then so we're hitting 2 on the low E here. Just let that hang out in there. We're sus4ing it basically. And then the B is like this. So we strum that B major, then hit the A2, D4, slide up on the A4 to 6, and then walk up the D4 to 6. And then we're changing this chord up a bit, so I'll just give it to you. It's the low E, and we have the A11, and then barring on the 9th fret, D9, G9, and then pinky is on B12, and you just hear a hint of this. In fact, at first I thought it was just an overtone with the open, but it's kind of hard to fret it like that, and I don't think he does. I think we're actually hearing this B up there. And what he plays there is, so he hits the bottom part of it, and then we do a little hammer on from the D9 to 11, and we're hitting the 3 strings after that, making sure we get that B12 in there. Landing on the A11 and sliding out. So let's do the whole thing kind of slow. I may have added a little timekeeping scratch in there when you play it slow to keep on beat. After that, it's a bit jazzed up. You hear a lot of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 kind of things going. He's mimicking what the drums are doing. And so the second pass through verse 1 is. So we have this, doing these little rundowns on the G sharp minor chord. So think of this rundown in the context of the rhythm. So, and slide down to this. We're going to do a rundown again. But instead of hammer on, he's going to actually do G4, D4, and then open A. So let's do that again. And then the B is the same. And this is a bit different. So it's low, low, high, low, and then high, high, and then slide out like that. And that's pretty much what verse 1 sounds like to me. Like I said, it's super hard to hear because that damn engineer likes to fade the guitar when the vocal comes in. I hate that. Pre-chorus 1 sounds like this. So this is a C sharp minor 7th chord. So root is on the 5th string. So we're at the A4. So we're 4, 6, 4, 5, that kind of thing. John Mayer likes this chord. And we do a slow strum of it. And then come back up with, and then kill it. And then we move to the G sharp minor. And a weird thing, when John Mayer transitions from bar chords with the root on the 5th string, he doesn't use a broom handle grip. He just bars with his finger. So just take your first finger, move it up, put it on the E4, and do that G sharp minor shape. And the rhythm is this. So that's. Then we slide down to the F sharp major. Again, using your first finger as the bar, because he does it, you can too. We do 2. So I use a down and an up. So let's do that slow. And then the next pass, we're going to hammer on that C sharp minor 7th. So just do the bar with your first finger and then hammer on the 2nd and 3rd fingers where you had them before. Then we do something interesting. This is kind of neat. We do an E power chord. So that's starting on the A7, first finger, and then 3rd finger is borrowing the G, D9 and G9. We're going to go, and then we're going to transition to this. So let me play that to speed starting from the hammer-on part. This was a real mystery when I heard it on the recording, because it's like, he was doing some interesting movement there, and I later found video of him doing it acoustically, and that's exactly what he did. He fretted it like this with his pinky, and then I saw the pinky disappear under the fretboard and do this, so I'm fairly confident this is what's happening, because it matches with the sound. So we do 3 strums on this E5, and then we slide up and we do this. So we're barring the 9th fret from the 5th string on down, and we're going to hammer on from 9 to 11 on the A. So, and then we're going to do this. We're going to drop down a string and hammer on from D9 to 11, and then we're going to lift off, get that bar at the 9th fret, and then hammer on back again on the A9 to 11. So slow. And the whole thing's slow. And then he just goes right back into the intro. And that becomes the chorus. The bridge is very freeform. Not going to teach you the whole thing. Let's just look at the chords and some of the things he does to make it sound pretty. First off, we have this A major 7 triad on the A12, 2nd finger. First finger is on the D11, pinky is on the G13. And the first time we hear it, he does this. And That's a very nice rhythm. You can kind of go with this off the top. That's what we hear on the record. So strum those 3 fretted strings. Stay away from the low E, don't hit it. And then hit these high strings. And then come back down and go back up, starting on the A12. And then you transition into the second chord in that section. And it's really nice when you hit that G13, slide back down to the G11. And that next chord, we've seen it already. It's the Eadd9 or G sharp minor 7th, sharp 5th chord, whatever. Let's call it the Eadd9. So that is A11, and then we have D9, and pinky is on G11. And then everything can be strummed here, including that low E. And we can go. And then slide up. When you slide back up into it, you're going to lift off your 3rd finger and substitute your 2nd finger on the A12. That's what gets you speed changing these. So you can kind of see the fingering here. The fingering is on the 1st chord, 2nd finger on the 12, 1st finger on the D11, pinky on the 13. And then when we're transitioning, the 2nd finger and the 3rd finger swap places. The other ones stay on their respective strings. And just kind of do that. Sometimes he just strums it. Lifts away from me, lost a new philosophy. I don't even think he knows what he's doing. And you can arpeggiate it. Yeah, don't hit that low E going into the A major 7. And there's harmonics sometimes. In fact, when you're in the A chord, you can kind of use your 3rd finger to hit those harmonics. So basically arpeggiate them, strum them, hang them out there in the airy space. Make it pretty. And when you're ending that whole freeform section, he ends on this Eadd9 chord. He strums it slow, and then a staccato stab, and then pull down. So, and that's more or less the bridge, just bopping between this A major 7 and this Eadd9, and making everything sound pretty. All right, now we're at the outro. So before we learn that specific part, we're going to go one back and do the last chorus that precedes it, so you can see how to get into it. Yeah, it sounds like this. So very much like the standard one. Here we go. That's pretty much all we do. We're hitting the whole chord and we're hammering on from that G3 to 4 with the pinky, and then lifting it off and hitting it without it. And there's an open string brush up like that to get into the B, which is the same. At the Eadd9 part, it's like sliding up into the Eadd9. I lost my count there, let's try that. And we end off with an open string strum just before getting into the outro part itself. So that's how you get into it. Then we do this. We do 4 of those, and let's take a look at it. So that intro lick is all in the B major pentatonic box, an indication that this tune is in B major, which it is. And it's all these 2-note things all placed around that scale, more or less. So let's do it slow, and then I'm going to break it down for you. I'll do that chordy thing with the descending afterwards. Let's concentrate on this rundown. So really hyper detailed. We have our first finger on the G6, second finger on the B7, and then the third finger is on the G8. And I'm going to do hammer on, pull off. And I'm going to pick the first two things, but the last one will just be the pull off itself. So pick, pick, pull off. And then we're going to jump over to the D9 and then do the D6. And then do an upstroke of the two middle open strings. That's the whole kind of atomic part of the first thing. And be sure to throw these open things in. They sound ugly, it's slow, but they're a valuable time-keeping and pick reorientation device. So we start each one of these on a downstroke. So that's the first one. And notice that I'm not picking everything. I'm not going... It's like... Think of like a swing happening. The next part is barring the two middle strings at the 6th fret, and we're doing a double hammer on. So the third finger is going to land on the 8th fret of the G, and the pinky is going to land on the 9th fret of the D. So to this. And this just makes us keep within the shape of the scale. So that's why we're doing this. So that's that one. And the open A rings in there when you do that. It's okay, it actually sounds cool. Okay, calm down. Focus. More open strings, pick orientation. And then we do this one. So that last one is A6 and then A9. And we're picking everything here. And then 9, 7 on the low E, some kind of time-keeping upstroke brush, and then we're into the next part. Let's do that super slow one more time. After we do that, we're going to do this neat thing. So we're sliding into the A4 to 6, barring with the first finger the D4, and then we're going to put our pinky on the B5 and hit the G4 and B5 together. So then we're going to take our pinky and put it on the, with that shape being held, the D7, and we're going to strum the 4 middle strings. So the A string, the D7, the G4, and the B5. So muting the low E. Then we're going to do some strumming as we descend on the D. We go from the D7 to the 6, and then the 4. So we want this movement. So the bar gives you the D4 note, and the pinky starts things off. Then it's replaced by the third finger on the D6, and then lift off. Then we're going to change it into a different chord by putting our pinky on the A7, and the third finger will go on the D6, and we have this E chord. And we just kind of like go up and down on that. There's something that you can do in other live versions I've heard that he doesn't do in this track. You can actually hammer on, pull off the D4 to 6. So this kind of thing. You get this kind of melody. Similar to this. So he does it up here, why not throw it in down there? One more time, slow. I'm going to lift the D6 off to get that kind of melody happening within the chord. And don't be afraid to hit the low. So let's do the first part and the second part slow. that's just repeated 4 times, and you've got it pretty much. Be aware that this part, sometimes the run-up leading to that stops there. So instead of that, it's so. So he goes back and forth between those two, getting into that. And that is pretty much the outro. Okay, for the actual ending, we do this. So it's that rundown that we've been doing before, but we're slowing it down a bit. So that's the chord where we have the open A, the D7, G4, B5. We're descending on that D string, 7, 6, 4. Then we're doing the E chord. So we've got our third finger now on the A6, pinky is on the A7, and we're going to descend there to lift off the third finger to get to the index finger on the D4, and then hit the A7, and then we do this. So we start that off by doing a loose kind of bar on the 4th fret, starting at the D all the way down, and our third finger is going to be on the A6. So the strings we're going to pick are, I'll number them, 5, 4, 3, 4. Then we're going to take our pinky and put it down on the G6, and then back, and then hit the B5, and then G4, lift off the B5 to get the bar at the B4, and that's it. So, and that's the last note. It hangs in the air, and audience goes crazy, and that is the ending of the song. So at this point, you've got all the parts to play it. If you're interested in some of the other guts of the song and weirdness that I found in it, stick around and check out part 2. So now we're in part 2 of the video, where we're going to look at some of the differences in the parts that occur later on. Let's take a look at verse 2, for instance. It sounds like this. So we have this 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 thing going on, driving it. So it's and then to the F sharp major part. That's kind of neat. So for that part, for the G sharp minor, it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then in the F sharp major part, we have this 1, 2, 3, and then sus4, that chord, and we have a nice little bass thing that precedes the B. So, and then the B is 1, 2, 3, like we've done before. So instead of, it's actually 1, 2, 3, and then up here the E, and the slide he does down there is from the 12th fret of the E all the way down. Then we start over again. The second pass through verse 2 on the G sharp minor chord sounds like this. So we're doing the low part of the chord, mid part, and then our pinky is going to be on the E6. Lift it off to the E4, to the B, like that. So it's more along that line. We're arpeggiating it, we're putting our pinky on the B6. And then the F sharp major is similar. And we're going to go just arpeggiate 2, 3, 4. And then the B is the same. 1, 2, 3. Actually, I did something neat there. It's actually... And then... So, just minor differences. Keeping in mind that 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. Two is different when it comes to the C sharp minor 7th chord. He's taking his pinky and hammering on and pulling off and sus4ing it basically. Sounds like this. So do your regular C sharp minor 7th. So that's starting on the 4th fret of the A. We have 4, 7, 4, and then 5 on the B. You're taking your pinky and you're going to lift it off and pull it down on B7. So you do that 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and then just the last part is just the straight C sharp minor 7 chord. And then it's the G sharp minor 7th, low, high, low, and then F sharp major, low, full chord, and then down, up, muted strum. So slow. And then we start over again. Then we do a really nice thing here. So that's just sliding down a power chord from the F sharp position. So we have 9, 11, 11. Slide that down 2 frets. So your first finger is on the 7th fret of the A. That's the E power chord position. And then take your 3rd finger, put it on the A9, and hit the low E and that 9 and slide it up 2 frets to 11. So, and then we're going to bar our first finger on D9 all the way down, pinky on B12, and then we're going to kind of hit the high part of it, mid, low, 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 like that. So that is that. In Chorus 2, he also starts to simplify the opening riff a tiny bit by throwing in muted chunks up and down in place of some of the pull-offs and things and slides. Like, before going into the regular. And again, that slide up and reverse rake thing. Another interesting thing he does in measure 58 is coming off of the B. He throws this really neat little bass riff in there. On the recording he actually goes, but I think he probably meant to play because it fits in more with the key of the song. So coming off that B, like you kind of rush open 4 and then A2 4 going into the A chord. In Chorus 3, the main riff is simplified somewhat when we get to the F sharp major part. It's only 2 chords, no hammer-on pull-offs per se, and then we add some slidey bits coming off of the Eadd9. Sounds like this. And you notice at the end of that we bop back and forth between the Eadd9 and the Eadd9 twice. That's something that happens in this part as well. So let's look at the beginning. Beginning's the same. But now the F sharp major part is now just 2 chords. We're going to sus for it by putting our pinky on the G4 and then lift the pinky off, get that F sharp major, and that's all that is. It's kind of nice. Going into the B part, same. And then the Eadd9 part changes. So what we're doing is Eadd9. The regular slide we used to do has now been replaced with a. So we're sliding up from the 7 to 9 on the low E, hammering on from the A7 to 9, and then from the 9 on the A to the 11, and then forming the chord. And in this version, when you're just going into chorus 3, he bops between the A-add9 and the E-add9 a couple extra times. So go right back to that A-add9, put a rest in, and then go. I'll just play it to speed to show you what I mean. And they do that a couple times, and then it goes into the woo-hooing part. So that's the extra stuff in chorus 3, the simplified F sharp part, and the extra slide up and hammer on. And lastly, I want to talk a bit about the track that didn't make it on the live album, Try. So when they recorded it, they had 2 sessions at the House of Blues on September 21st and September 22nd, 2005. Now it looks like the track that was recorded on the 21st made it on the album. The track on the 22nd did not. But if you hunt around at a place like jmfan.com, which is a big 178 gigabyte torrent of John Mayer bootlegs, you can download to your hard drive this file structure that's all set by date. So you go to the 2005 directory, September 22nd, House of Blues, and you'll get, I think you get the whole concert. You definitely get Another Kind of Green. And that version's really cool because it has the start stop, oh it's too slow, do it again kind of thing. And in that version, near the end, he really goes crazy, does some really neat things, and they're worth talking about here. So one of the things that he does different in that one than we have on the recorded album is this part. And I'm talking about this part coming out of the B. It's really hard to get to that A-add9 from this part, but I found that really cool. That one always catches my ear. He does a slightly less crazy version of it in the one that made it on the album, but this one I really like. So that's coming off the B. We're going to slide up 4 to 6 on the A, and then hit the 4-6 on the D. So open E, 4th fret of the E, and then walk up on the 2 and 4 on the A, and then slide up as fast as you can to that A-add9. So to speed. That one's really cool. Another thing he does at the outro, I'm talking about this part at the end. I really like that. All he's doing there is 3rd finger is on the G6, 2nd finger is on the B5. We're going to strum the bottom 3 strings, including the open E. We're just going to slide that up 2 frets. And then the last position is 1st finger is on the 4th fret of the G, lift off your 3rd finger. So we have this. And that's after the strumming part. Really like that. I did a bit of it at the beginning. I should have waited, but another thing he does is he doubles up on the hammer on and pull-offs on that descending lick. So instead of going, he goes like this. And that's really cool too. So slow it's. And this part is pretty much the same. Here he does another neat thing where he kind of bars on the 4th fret on the D and G, and then with his 3rd finger he hammers off and on the 6th fret of both of those strings. So you have this this kind of subtext, and then back to this. Again, those double hammer-on pull-offs, he's sticking more to a single note thing. No, there's no double hammer-ons after the first one. And finally, near the end of the song, and I don't have this worked out, but I'll kind of go over the idea of it. He just starts noodling in different pentatonic boxes after he comes off that. When he gets to here, you'll see him go like, do these kind of noodly licks that sound really cool. So I don't have any of those worked out. I can't pull them out of my butt like John Mayer can in hyperspeed, but you could work out some very nice things that connect all those different pentatonic scales. Just keeping in mind that B major pentatonic or the G sharp minor pentatonic and how they all connect up and down. That's probably better explained in other videos rather than this one. But that's some homework if you want to take this and make it your own live. So yeah, again, amazing tune. And check out those alternate versions. They're always very illuminating. Awesome. It's always neat to think what version might have made it on the Try album when you go back and listen to some of these songs. What's super funny about this one, and let's just listen to that again, is he starts it, and you can tell it's a live recording because he doesn't like what's going on and he stops the band.
I know we can do that better.
And then he starts it again, but they kind of fuck up and it's too slow. So he's like, stop, it's too slow.
That's too slow.
So very cool.
Now that's too slow.
You can always tell when they're doing a live recording and stuff like this
That's
happens.
a little slow. I'm just saying that's a little slow. Now I need beverage. Hold on.
Just want to talk a bit about this chord, which I think I referred to by two different names in the tutorial. The name we decided on, I think, is Eadd9. So let's look at that E. So the ones we're fretting are the A11, the D9, and the G11. And using the E major scale, which is do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Using that, we can kind of get the numbers and see what the intervals are and name the chord. So we're looking for this note. Using the E major scale, 1, 2, 3. That's our first fretted note, so it's a major third. The next one, I know that's a fifth just because of the shape. So that's the third and the fifth. E is the root. That's an E major so far. Then we have this. What the hell is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that's the ninth. So that's our E major with an Eadd9. And then the open B is a repetition of the fifth, and the open E is a repetition of the root. Sounds good. However, if you start it from the fifth string, that's a G sharp note. G sharp is part of this, part of the chord selection. So let's go run up the scale there. So do, re, mi. If we drop that one, it becomes a minor third. So that's our G sharp minor third. Where can we find this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's a flat and 7. So we have root, flat and third, flat, minor third, flat and 7, sounding like a G sharp minor 7th. But we're missing the fifth. We don't have a fifth there, but we do have a B and an E. So what are we going to do with that? If we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's our sharpened fifth. That's what we got there. And what does that B to us? Yeah, B is the flat third. So that's how that works out. So to my ears, that chord, when started on the fifth fret, is like a G sharp minor 7th with a sharp fifth, with a sharp 5. And when started from the E, it's an Eadd9. I think. But feel free to correct me because I'm no expert in this. I'm kind of a hack at chord building. Anyways, that is that. The other neat thing is this Eadd9. If you fret it with the 2 open strings, it's an Eadd9. But if you put your first finger on the B5 and your pinky on the E7, it's still an Eadd9 because we're just switching the note values of the 2 strings. This open E becomes a B at the 7th fret, and the open B becomes an E at the 5th fret. So we're just switching need, eh? I don't know if he knows this when he's making these songs, or he just throws it in to make himself look like a genius, or if it's a happy accident or what. But there's a couple neat chords like that in this song. There's also another neat thing I stumbled upon when I was researching the song. It was a Periscope of him doing requests, and he improvised a lot of neat stuff off the top of his head, but he couldn't remember how to play it, which is a problem that a lot of people have. The more you know, the more you forget. And you really got to workshop these songs when you take them on the road.
Another kind of green. I have not played that lick in a long time. Yeah, it's really just... It's not just like that, because I realize that sounds crazy.
I'm not saying that 2005 ASCII tab was horrible. There's some really good stuff in it. They got almost all the chords right. But everyone used it for their tutorials and lessons, and they just propagated the guy's mistakes. There's no way that ending is... Hello, how you doing? We're here to talk about the color green and how it's used in film and television to key out certain elements and switch the background of a scene or something like that. And in particular, Star Wars. When I was a little kid, I knew that R2 had these blue panels. Show me your blue panels. Yeah. And when he was in space, he'd all look black. Like every part you see is blue here would be black. And the reason for that is they used to use blue screens to key out the background and put the space field in. And when it would eliminate his blue coloring, he'd have stars shining through him and he looked weird. So they ended up painting all of these panels black. So any scene where you see him in space, he's got black panels. And then anytime he's on the ground with practical effects in back of him, he uses regular color. Did you know that? And then for the special editions, they fixed it all and he was blue again in outer space, which was kind of weird to me. So yeah, the color green is pretty cool. And as they say in television, the color green should not be seen.